Well, I don't think you do. I think it's the latest bit of evidence that shows Sunak was never serious about levelling up. I mean, I was talking to Boris Johnson about the Treasury's resistance to his wishes to level up at a much grander scale. And I think it shows the poverty of his approach. I mean, there is no future for a Conservative Party that doesn't cater to its majority, and its majority isn't in Tunbridge Wells. I might be in Tunbridge Wells, but I am not the majority of the Conservative Party. They are now in the north, and they desperately need levelling up because they've been abandoned by all parties really since the 1970s, and they need investment at a grand scale. And Boris Johnson was frustrated by Sunak's antipathy to levelling up. And here I think we can see why. And I think it's the final nail in his leadership coffin, if we can put it like that.
We were hearing from Richard Graham, Conservative MP, that he was trying to explain, well, all that Rishi is doing is emphasising the fact that there are many other areas deprived, particularly, he put in Kent, Tunbridge Wells. I mean, I don't know how you feel about deprivation there in the Garden of England.
We are not deprived in Tunbridge Wells. Quite the contrary. We have one of the highest, I think, per capita incomes in the county. There are parts of Kent that are deprived, but it's certainly not Tunbridge Wells. And, I'm all for improving all parts of the country, but it's really hard to have a sympathetic reading of these remarks. And I always feared that if Sunak got the job, it would be a version of George Osborne Part 2, but without the concern for the North. And I just don't see how he can govern a nation when he has such a narrow austerity agenda that won't serve the majority, won't speak to the country's needs. I mean, that's not a recipe for leadership. That's a recipe for loss.
Up on something you said I thought was quite interesting, Osborne Mark II, because clearly a lot of people actually think that the Cameron-Osborne relationship, number 10 and number 11, worked quite well, even if there's now a question about how far austerity went.
I think, look, I'm a Conservative, but I've long argued for a different form of conservatism than we have. And I think you have to say we haven't had a particularly successful Conservative government since Cameron was elected. We had an overreaction to austerity. It went too far, damaged too much, and not least the union of the country, and very little gain really to show for it. And it speaks to the current poverty of the imagination that with the enormously new majority that Boris Johnson got for the Conservative Party, that we haven't been able to come up with anything other than small bits of money that areas in the north have to compete for. I mean, that's inadequate. The advantage of Liz Truss is I think she gets this. She has at least, thank goodness, said she'll restore the link in HS2 to Leeds. And she's aware of the need for devolution. I've spoken with her before about this, and I think she has a much broader, she's more aware of the needs of the country than clearly Sunak is. That would be my take. And I think what we have to ask, though, is much deeper questions of the Conservative Party. They've failed to speak to the collapse in British productivity, the stagnation of the economy from the financial crisis onwards. These are the questions we need to put to them.
Well, thank you very much indeed for... I mean, we used to joke about yours disgusted Tunbridge Wells about the letters to the Times. You're not quite disgusted, but...
Well, I am disgusted in Tunbridge Wells to hear that remark. I find it profoundly depressing that we are still, as a Conservative Party, catering to the wealthy in the South East when you know what, they're going to vote Lib Democrat.
Right.
It's the North that will vote Tory.